the sun. Brace yourself. Brace yourself.
Before we begin, we are going to show you the rundown of the qualifying race. The top 20 made it past the qualifier. We'll get to them in the starting grid. But here is the qualifying race. We are going to show you a brief highlight synopsis of this, and then get on with the starting grid. So we'll show you the first caution. Alright, the first caution of the race happened around Bob Jones here in the 121 car when he got into the back of, I believe that was Nick Mace, and around he went. A lot of cars would pile into the back of this one, but only a couple of cars would fall out of this. Looks like William Duncan will not be getting a start, nor will, or William Duncan would not start, or Joshua Michaels would not make the American 700, likewise with RL Ryusu. This qualifier was a bit crazy, though, and some drivers that were in that wreck would probably, would actually make this race. So, as we go on to the second crash of this qualifying race. Damer DeLeese was really slow from damage in that first crash, and he would come up right in front of the 115 car. That was Tristan Folks. Around they both went. That was pretty much it. It could have been a lot worse as we were looking up the field. No other damage there. This qualifier was quite intense, as at this stage there are quite a few cars that have had some issues now, but no one fell out from that one. The final caution of the session would come with Tamer DeLeese, as again, as Alan Cavagnaro and Jason Trost would speed off, or I'm sorry, Trost, I'm not sure your first name at this stage, I'll check that up, sorry about that. Tamer DeLeese would bunch up the field, and around they went in the back, and this wreck would get rather crazy as Ian Dutta flips a couple of times, Sean Galligan does, and big news though is Ian Dutta, because of that wreck, would not make the race. Let's see if he was in a transfer position. Looks like, yes, he was. He was running 11th. He would have made it if he didn't get involved in that wreck. Same with Galligan. We'll show you the difference in the transfer position right there. Right here was the difference between the transfer position. It was a battle between the 115 and the 30, and we have to go frame by frame to show exactly what happened. 115 has a whole lot more speed, as the 30 is slowing down to avoid Marian Shellrod, and the 115 of Tristan Folks, with a damaged car, would actually get in, and Will Lewis would get bumped out of the race. I'm sorry, I think I said William Duncan was out. I think or that's Carl Sander, I'm sorry. Carl Sander is in the Thunder. Some more important cars that are out would be Galligan, and both of these Sololas didn't make it, and Alan Cavagnaro would go on to win the qualifier. We'll have a full list of the people who did not make the race in the starting grid. Here is the grid of 42 cars ready to take the green flag here at Texas Motor Speedway here for the American 700. Any minute now they'll be rolling off, as we will now go down to the starting grid. Charlie Fabrosis is on pole today here at Texas Motor Speedway. He is definitely taking advantage of his main points rival, Ian Dutta, not being on the grid for this race, and this is a double points race, so if Fabrosis can score points, he's pretty much going to have a pretty big point lead if he can get away with it. On his outside is James Silverfox with a fantastic run in qualifying, only a couple hundredths rather, off of Fabrosis. Good to see him doing well here. Randy Carpenter starts P3 in the Red Bull. His American 700 luck, if I can recall, isn't the best. Tyler Thabor is the first of the American Oval Invitational drivers who qualified in car 38. He qualified P4. It's going to be quite difficult to see who is in what car because they are all the same paint scheme. If you can see back further, the next row has both American Invitational cars. Jacob Steinmetz is qualified P5 in the 36 car, and on his outside is Jacob Anthony. Steinmetz will probably be in a car will be in a car with the brand new Polar Racing next season. That's Eamon Staples' team, and Anthony will probably be, I'm guessing, in a ride next year. We'll see. No, you're not continuing to see double because Noah Hart and Jacob Hart are on a row together. Jacob Hart has won the American 700 before in the past at Fontana. Eamon Staples is starting behind the Hart brothers in P9. Eamon Staples is the owner of Polar Racing, owner-driver. And on his outside is DJ Curtis and the other Red Bull rounding out the top 10. DJ Curtis, another solid qualifying effort. Good to see him doing something. The first one-off driver, PJ Williams, will be starting P11. The one-off drivers have been remotely fast. They just didn't get the top spots in qualifying, which is kind of a surprise because I was expecting the one-off drivers to do a lot better than that. And on his outside is Alex Allen in the one car, the reigning champion. His teammates pretty much outperformed him all season. Erica Cornwell, the ARCSOA Lights driver, is the only female on the grid outside of Marion Shawrot, who's way back in the order. So good to see Cornwell doing well here. And on her outside is Ike Durbin, the only Lycos in the field, as Will Lewis lost it probably by a couple inches. Raymond Fisher, the Sony Cup Series driver, or former, I'm not sure if he's in Sony Cup Series now, but is making his ARCSOA Elite Series debut in this 467-lap race here around Texas Motor Speedway. Good to see some Sony Cup Series blood in the field. And here comes an ARCSOA driver who surprisingly, I don't think has ever made an Elite Series start, being Stephen Pollard III. If he has, he didn't do anything in it. Maybe he did start, I think. Never mind. P2 London makes his return in car 31 after injury. He will be focusing only on the American Oval Invitational, so Charlie Fabrosis can breathe a sigh of relief that he doesn't have London breathing down his neck. We're expecting London will be in the DNC next season. And Cody Lamas in the 12 car is starting P18. Good to see him up there. Kenny Myatt was starting P19. He was the second to last car to make it into past the qualifier, bypass it by being one of the fastest in his session. And 20th was actually supposed to be Jake Baskinger's position, but Baskinger had to change an engine in the qualifying session, and or in the pole qualifying shootout, and he had to replace the engine, so he's starting at the back with the cars that needed backup cars and whatnot, or made unapproved changes. So we brought up Alan Cavagnaro, the qualifier winner, to start P20th. P21 will go to Jason Tross, an amazing run by the rookie there, working his way up in the 35 car following Cavagnaro. He was in front of the wreck, and Nick Mace in the other Mace car, Cavagnaro of course is in the 23, will be piloting that from the midfield. Those cars look fast, so be aware. James Shelley in the only Cathnex car is on the grid as Galligan would have transferred in, but got wrecked out. And on his outside, we have Kyle Collins, the fastest car in Happy Hour. So watch Kyle Collins. Kyle Collins, the American Oval Invitational driver. Actually, two American Oval Invitational drivers actually swept the top two in Happy Hour, or Final Practice. So good to see that. Ivan Brazenkopf, the perennial one-off driver, is starting behind that row. Brazenkopf has done well in these one-off races in the past, so he will be hoping for a win here in the American 700, and I actually wouldn't put it past Brazenkopf to win it. Jay Barker is an energetic rookie who was a really long shot qualifier, but shockingly made it in through the qualifying race, mainly because I think he avoided a wreck, but we'll see how he can do. He is certainly enthusiastic to start this race. Nico Hall in the 4 car is way down the order, didn't make the pole qualifying run and got wrecked. Ferrari did a nice job, though, fixing up that car so it can take the start. And Luke Walker in the 177 car, good to see him back too. Ran really well at a Cleveland Grand Prix a couple of years back, which was an endurance race. Tristan Wilhoit is starting behind them, and he is going to own his own team next year, so this is a great experience to see him get into the series as a team owner. And we'll see how the 190 car does, and it could actually... I think they're using a Skyline GTR for that car, so... he's in a Chevy Monte Carlo, but we'll have to see what Will Hoyt can do. Vincent Allen, the Walkier crews had a really rough time because both their cars got wrecked out in the qualifying, or got wrecked in the qualifying race rather badly. They had to roll out the backup car for Shawrot, but luckily for Vincent Allen, they fixed that car and will be starting where he would, even though if he started a little bit further back, it really wouldn't have mattered. Sean Perkins was the second fastest car in Final Practice, as he will be fast in this race as well. He won the American 700 at Daytona. Oh, yeah, Vincent Allen won it last year at the Indy. Jeffrey Finguy kind of got lost in the silly season shuffle. Good to see him here, though. Finguy is going to be fighting for this American Oval Invitational. We're expecting it to be back next year, and I think this is kind of what ARCSOA needed, was to get some of these more experienced guys who are veterans in the Elite Series that actually just solely focus on it. Ryan Haupt is another one, and kind of in the same boat, got left out in the silly season shuffle, and is now in the American Oval Invitational. Good to see Ryan Haupt on the grid. He will probably, both Finguy and himself will probably get rides next season. On Haupt's outside, we have Eugene DeMax and the Texan cars. They were kind of slow in the qualifier, but luckily for the Texan cars, they got up through. They missed the wreck, and both Texan cars will start, as we'll see Alex Garjay is kind of hanging back. There you might be able to see way in the back. Now we have John Cittadino in the 40 car, the DuPont Cup Series' most interesting driver. I think you can kind of know, if you know Cittadino, why I say that. And on his outside, we have Bob Jones, who was involved in the first wreck, and arguably caused the first wreck, but luckily for him, he was the last car to make it through on without making unapproved engine changes, and unapproved changes to the car. They really hammered at that car to get it fixed for the day's race. We'll see how Bob Jones can do, because he was fast. He was pretty fast in the first couple of practices. It was actually kind of a surprise that he didn't lock himself into the top 20, because he was that fast all race. Jake Baskinger was supposed to start P20, actually had a fast car, and actually led his practice session, which locked him into the top 20 shootout. Baskinger was the fastest, but an engine failure has been plaguing Ferrari all season, and Baskinger will be starting way down the order here with the cars with unapproved engine changes. As Chris Washer blew up the tranny coming out of the pits in happy hour. Tough break for him. Alex Garjay is back here. He had some pretty serious damage from, or maybe not damage, he had some pretty serious mechanical problems in a final practice. We're not sure what happened, but he did have a mechanical problem, so he's back here. Carl Sander took a pretty vicious hit to the rear, damaged the underside. He had to go to a backup car. These rest of these cars are backup cars. Sharot flipped across the start-finish line just enough to lock herself in. So Sharot is sitting in a backup car, and last car on the grid is Tristan Folks in a backup car as well. Surprisingly that they actually got a backup car for that, because they had to wheel one in and effectively piece it together. And Tristan Folks will be starting the race today. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the starting grid. We'll see how the race goes.